Hey folks, welcome to another vlog. This is Over the Garden Wall, episode 7 and 8. I keep wanting to say this is Gravity Falls, but it's not, it's Over the Garden Wall. I think it's that fall wall rhyme that's tripping me. Anyway, so we pick up where we left off. It looks like immediately after we left off, with Beatrice just realizing that Wirt and Greg have gone without her. It looks like they took the scissors with them. At least that's what I am taking from her rummaging, and I think I remember that from episode 6. I'm not certain, but I remember Wirt definitely had the scissors. Anyway, Beatrice is coming after them, but she doesn't show up again until the end of episode 8. As Wirt leads Greg to through the rain to this shack, which proves to be the abode of a rather monstrous woman named Auntie Whispers and her servant Lorna, where, Auntie Whispers is very grotesque in the same way as Adelaide. She's huge. She eats black turtles. She talks about children being devoured. But it turns out that it's Lorna that's the one devouring children, that she's possessed by some kind of evil ghost, and keeping her working, keeping her effectively enslaved using this magic bell, is the only way to keep her from turning into a monster and eating children. Except that Wirt almost immediately, upon getting the bell, figures out that she can be freed by ordering the evil spirit to go away. Which somehow never occurred to Auntie Whispers? I don't know. It's a little suspect. Especially because, this episode really seems to be about, things are not what they seem, don't take things at face value, which is a lesson Wirt badly needs after the series of assumptions he made in response to the encounter with Beatrice and Adelaide. That, Beatrice was leading them to be, I forget what it is that Adelaide wanted to do to them. Sew them into something, or I don't remember. It doesn't matter. She wanted to do something bad to them, and she needed children for it. I love Wirt's assertion that he's a teenager, he's not a child, and yet everything here is treating him like a child. Perhaps because he's basically acting like one. Jumping to conclusions, acting off the basis of whatever impulse occurs to him. He's not really that different from Greg. It's just that Greg is cheerful and Wirt is melancholic. But otherwise, they're very, very similar in their behavior. They don't really think. They just do. And that's kind of what we get from this episode. That and an opportunity to make Wirt sad. It kind of built up this notion that there was an attraction between him and Lorna, and then at the end of the episode, Lorna goes back with Auntie Whispers, and Wirt goes on his way by himself. Well, with Greg, but without Lorna is the point. So once again, he's feeling rejected, and he's all sad about it, and getting lost in the wood and giving up. Which leads us into the next episode, where... Alright, let's be fair here. There is nothing more obnoxious than someone who is unrelentingly cheerful when you are down. It's incredibly grating and annoying. You get this kind of, well, how dare they be happy when I am miserable kind of a thing. It's not very nice, but it's real. It's a real reaction. And, frankly, Greg is an extremely annoying little child to begin with. I've said this before. He's annoying. So I can't say I was a huge fan of an episode that was focused entirely on him, though I did really like the way his dream went back to that, old school cartoon kind of a vibe. Especially the shots that were just circular. I'm not really sure of the terminology for that, but I definitely recognize that as something I've seen before in old cartoons. Usually they indicate that we're taking a particular person's perspective, that we're shifting to a subjective point of view. So at first they were reflecting Greg's point of view, like he would look at something and then we would get the circular shot of whatever he was looking at. But that kind of stopped partway through the episode, and it started just being more or less random when it did it. The character designs here were weird and childish and slightly creepy with their constant smiles, but again, it had a real old school cartoon feel to it, like a Felix the Cat kind of a thing. A King Features. I think that's what they were called. Is that the comic strips? Anyway, like that kind of old school animal cartoon kind of a thing. But much weirder creatures. The whole thing with those series of welcoming committees was a little weird, but it set up the great joke about the giant glowering storm dog thing that was just completely out of nowhere and consequently quite funny. There was definitely some good dream logic going here. It was not a dream that felt... this is going to be weird to say, but it was not a dream that felt scripted, even though obviously it was. What I mean is, a lot of the times in fiction, dreams are a little too coherent, a little too much of a complete narrative. And this, while there was a narrative to it, it was a suitably bizarre and random one that it still felt dreamlike. So, the Angry North Wind came out, and I guess that's, tied to it snowing outside, which is in turn tied to the gag earlier about Greg's powers, that anything he wishes for happens, because, he dreams the North Wind and it starts to snow. In reality. So, normally I'm not a huge fan of that kind of interaction between what a character is dreaming and what happens outside them, because, frankly, it's not something I think actually happens in real life. Like, you hear stories, but I've never heard of anybody really, dreaming that they're drowning and then wake up to find the dog has slobbered all over them, or, hearing someone calling them in a dream and then waking up to find that they're calling them in real life. I don't think that happens. But it worked here because of the joke about Greg's powers earlier. And so the angelic woman in the dream was pretty clearly something sent by the beast. The promise he made to the beast in his dream holds as a promise. What that promise is, not entirely clear, but probably something along the lines of, let work go and you can have me. Cheerful child that he is, Greg is probably aware that this will motivate Greg to come after him. Which seems to be the setup for the final 2 episodes, that Greg and Beatrice are going to be that Wirt and Beatrice are going to be going after Greg to rescue him from the beast. And we also, I think, finally see what's going on with the Beast and the Woodsman, which is that I think they call it Idlewood trees, are if I remember correctly, way back to the first episode, those are the fuel that the Woodsman uses for the lamp, which excuse me, oh, sorry about that, which apparently contains the soul of his daughter, which the Beast somehow claimed. And in order to keep his daughter's soul alive, he has to keep the lamp lit, which requires the fuel from the Idlewood trees, which have some connection to the children claimed by the Beast. They grow around the children who despair. And then the Beast takes those children's souls, and the wood that grows around them fuels the lantern, I guess? That seems to be what's going on here. It's interesting to me that we still only see the Beast in shadow. Either he's entirely a creature of shadow, or there's some reveal going on when we see his face. I'm guessing it'll either be the same face as the Woodsman, the same face as Wirt. Since he is, of course, Wirt's melancholy pursuing them. Threatening to shut him down so that they can never find their way home. So yeah. Not a ton to talk about. I feel like these were sort of transitional episodes. They're about taking us from where we left off and setting up the pieces for the next stage. But that's okay. That happens sometimes. And I'm really looking forward to the final 2 episodes, which I'll record next time. And then from there, we move on to whatever the other thing was. Star Versus, I think. So, see y'all then. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Bye.